I'm going to talk about um, how to select this storage. Okay, so let me do this. How to select a Docker storage based on the workload or the service you wanted to run. So let me start with Docker. Let's say you have a OCI container. OCI container. Okay, when you are going to use, I'll start with the temp-fs. Let me put it this way. Let's say ephemeral storage. The ephemeral storage, as I said, it's the default one, and this is used for testing purposes. I believe this is the only use case which I can tell. Used for Can be used for testing purposes. So ephemeral storage is the thin read-write layer. This is good for testing purposes. Okay, to give an idea, this is the thin read write layer. Okay, which is the root of the container file system. And then the other thing is important. So you start with the bind mount. Bind mount. This bind mount, as I said, it's a legacy one. This is good for syncing your configuration files and source code. Okay, suppose you wanted to make your configuration files available to a specific workload, sync your application source code inside the container. So this is good for the use cases, good for supplying conf files, configuration files, and uh, source code, app source code, application source code to the containers. So this is where we effectively use this type. If you see SloopStash Sloop engine implementation wherever in Dev or anywhere, we try to use this bind mount capability in Docker to sync the source code. We don't put source code in the OCI images directly. As I said, there are do's and don'ts involved in the OCI image. Okay, so bind mount is good in this area. Okay, so this is the place where it actually fits. Now, when it comes to the other thing, which is the Docker volumes, that is called Docker volumes, not just volumes. So the volumes in Docker, they have the best use case is to persist the data. So data persistence, data persistence. When you are specifically, this is a very important need when you are running database level workload. Suppose, for example, let's say you are going to run a Elasticsearch. Suppose you are going to run a MongoDB, or let's say you are going to run a MySQL database. In all these scenarios, data persistence is a very important thing. You can't put a data in the container, and once the container goes out or they gets deleted, in the thin writable layer will be deleted. So data won't be there. So data persistence is an important thing. So earlier, long back, this bind mount is also used for data persistence, but not recommended now. We now have more options in Docker, like the volume, which also supports different plugins and all that. So you don't need really the bind mount to do this job. You can use the Docker volumes and easily manage that data persistence. Okay. And data persistence means persisting log data also is one data. We can persist the logs also. So that is also a data. Okay. And when it comes to the temp-fs, the temp-fs is a storage which is useful for serving cached content. Because if you go to web server world, and the very important thing is serving the data in a very low latency. So to do that, we need to cache it. Okay. So it is good for serving cached content. But for now, to give an context, you can there are things like Nginx. Nginx, you can configure Nginx to serve the cached content from your system, from a container. Okay, there is a specific software called Varnish, which is specifically built for serving cached content. Now, if you ask me what is a cached content, can you say some types? I can say like static files. Mostly in application building, you see the CSS, JavaScript, images, logos, fonts. All these things are static content. So serving cached content means you can say even a static HTML file or a CSS file or a JavaScript file or whatever you call as the front end things, the images, uh, certain videos, all these things you can catch scripts like that. So all these things you can actually catch. These are all the things needed to be loaded in the browser end very quickly. For that, you can use Nginx or Varnish kind of servers to do that. Okay, this is the content that has to be cached. Okay, I mean, if you want me to give a name for this thing, I would like to say the name is, what is the best name? The best name is front end content. Okay, what you see visually in the browser, the colors and all that, right? It's all from the CSS, JavaScript, and all that. Today, everything is in the browser only. So this is what I'm talking about. Okay, so the front end UI components. Okay, so this is how you can see this um, four types of uh, four types of storage usage in the containers. Okay, this is what Docker by default supports. Suppose you want to extend this and you wanted to play some different networking drivers and all that. Yes, you can do with the support of volumes. Okay, and integrate third party storage drivers, third party storage drivers with uh, Docker. That is possible by using this Docker one. But that is not always recommended, and Docker always does not support certain things in every platform. When you go to Docker, you have to go with the Docker resources only. That is the only guarantee that will work on all infrastructures. If you try to tweak that behavior and all that, I think you have to do it with your own risk. It may work. If it is not working, you need to break your head to fix it. That's all. So in Kubernetes also, it is the same story. Kubernetes community recommends something. If we try to do something which out of our own ambitious thing and all that, and then we have to fix it. It is Docker does not support that. You can go for Docker company support and get certain things make it working, but enterprise support for Docker is very costly. Per node level, you have to pay. So I'm just saying the option. So you can integrate this Docker volume with third-party storage drivers. So by default, it just uses the post storage back mechanism, but you can do third-party storage driver implementation. Okay. So this is how you can select the storages based on use cases. Okay, it's all based on use case. For databases, you go for this. For that, you go for this. Code syncing, go for that. Secret store. I think even one more point I forgot. For storing secret data, sometimes sensitive data like passwords or something you wanted to store, you can store in the temperature. So you can be sure that it will be short-lived. Any short-lived secret data, sensitive data, you can store it here. As I said, this is a RAM-based storage. Because it is a RAM-based storage, once it is gone, it will be gone. Okay, so that is what you can get from this storage selection. Okay,